Hello, we start now our Defacto review for this week. We have selected 3 following topics about building safety in Ulaanbaatar city. Second, inflation. Is inflation going down? Third, teachers' deficit in Mongolia. These are 3 topics we will describe now. First, about building safety. There was a consultative meeting organized by the city mayor Somya Bazar on Monday, and the name was Building Safety, Standard and Quality. And there were some 200 people from all walks, researchers, engineers, related NGOs, producers of construction materials, etc., etc. Mayor Somya Bazar said that there are 6 faults, tectonic faults, and one of them is in the center of Ulaanbaatar. The 6 of them is on the territory of Ulaanbaatar city. So if there is a major earthquake, there could be a very dangerous situation that's threatening national security, as he said. Turned out there are 335,000 construction objects in Ulaanbaatar city. And majority of complaints for the last 2 years from the citizens or residents of Ulaanbaatar city are related to quality of buildings, norms of constructions, violation of rules of territory, etc. Because they were not following master plan of Ulaanbaatar city, and many buildings were accepted or received or confirmed by the state, we call it commission, when the buildings have already violated rules and the laws, then many problems are accumulated in Ulaanbaatar city. Still, the people are giving permission to the lands, which they are not supposed to do so. It's public land. It is a land that has to do with the engineering infrastructure. Still, the process is going on. That's what the people are saying. Unfortunately, it's true. And there were several interesting reports on that consultative meeting. One is by Mr. Uğun Bayar, who is the emergency office deputy and general, brigadier general, who was a head of the Mongolian group of emergency officers who worked in Turkey just after the earthquake recently. And he said that there will be nationwide training on May 24, 26 about what we can do in case of earthquake. This kind of event is organized first time in the country. And he's saying that, say, if one 9-floor residential building collapses due to earthquake, say, in the 1st district, we're not sure whether we can save people, dig it out, etc. So it looks like it's very urgent training or drill. Second interesting report was made by a scientist from the Academy of Science, who said that for the last 10 to 15 years, majority of buildings in Ulaanbaatar city is built on the slope of mountains. And when this slope is more than 15 degrees, the heating power or the destroying power of the earthquake will be increased twice. That's what he said. And in 2013, there was a conclusion or research that they have made a conclusion that if major earthquake happens, 11% of the centralized residence buildings will be collapsed. 33% of the houses, personal household houses, and as a result, there will be 7,500 casualties in Ulaanbaatar center, and 38,000 in Gir district of Ulaanbaatar city. It's a huge number. But he said that maybe the situation is changed after 10 years because now we are replacing many buildings made during 50s. But however, still we have many children in a school classroom. And there are so many houses are made in Gir district without any professional involvement. So it will cause a lot of problem. That's the reason why the 38,000 people can be victims of the earthquake in Gir district. Another report was saying that now Mongolia is producing 37% of all construction materials inside of the country, which is good news. However, we need to increase our quality control of those materials. Another report was about quality of the buildings, and a funny thing is like there is a architect control of the building, which is now very hard to make it. Why? Because there is no clear terms or days, calendar days for start or finish of any construction project. So it's impossible for architect to check the process. Secondly, in Mongolia, the project developer is becoming himself contractor, which is a very common case now. A construction so-called company, now they will take land, they will develop the land, then there is a contractor, they will make a contract with architecture, and they will build themselves. And after build, they will also sell themselves, and after the selling, there will be also the management of that building. There's a crazy structure which is probably only in Mongolia. So we need to change this procedure. Developers should be separate, owners separate, contractor and the general architect. All this is separate, should be entities, and should be very clear contract between them. Mr. Kanzorig, Mongolian Construction Engineer Union, Mr. Kanzorig said that in Turkey, one of the main reasons of many buildings collapse is the reinforcement bars are just without any threads on the surface. So it is a matter of this reinforcement bars quality and design issue. Well, after that long consultative meeting, they have decided to make several steps in three directions. One is about legal environment. They need to, some of them, if to mention about the legal environment's work, is to make our standards, norms, rules into the international level. Second, for example, every construction materials brought to the country is to be certified or through the certified companies. So we need to create, it says, state control structure, a united structure, general structure. In Mongolia, there was a professional inspection authority which recently dissolved. So this construction materials or building, all the process is now under the control of Ministry of Construction in the urban development. And the other thing in legal framework they want to do is we need to have hold responsible, even for the wrongdoing, in particular, except in buildings, substandard buildings, even that person gone from his positions, which is not the case in the country. They state commission few guys sitting there and accepting the buildings, some gets a proper bribe, and then they later on disappear. The other thing is the direction of increasing responsibility for control of the quality of the building. It says that unpermitted construction works to be terminated. Also, if somebody have added floors to existing building or break down walls that supporting walls of the building, these people will be held responsible for that action. And we need to have an inspection united or general structure that can check every materials brought from abroad, and in particular sold in a retail sale. Because people are bringing, not through wholesaler, but a retail sale process of construction materials is very common in Mongolia. And you cannot get that person maybe even back because it is not registered even seller. The third is organizational some work. We need more stations for recording soil movement. And we need to have the stations all around Ulaanbaatar city. We need also have a special lab for health performance of the construction materials. To increase more again materials that is produced inside of the country. And the other thing is to create database, open database of all buildings, and it is to be public. We talk about this process for many years. The government was saying they keep doing, but we don't have this final open platform for knowing which building belongs to whom. And because the tax system is not existing well, in particular, state-owned enterprise don't pay property tax, and the state-owned enterprise keep increasing. So you can imagine why is it that slow. And the other thing is to check the windows. There is several tests, and that test is to be made more sophisticated, they say. So for any construction permissions, we need also local district governors permission also. What else? We need a special training process for architects, contractors. So these are three directions of actions. As a result of this consultative meeting, the city will implement. But however, I was very surprised them not talking about the most important tools of making sure that the construction quality, safety meets the standard, and that is insurance. In general, wherever a state cannot do any functions of inspecting, controlling, monitoring, the inspection, the insurance can do it. In some countries, there is it is by law that the construction work is to be insured in order to avoid huge liability by constructors. So there is a Building Safety Act in UK, for example, or also the same law in the US. Once the construction, each process is insured, then the insurance company comes and makes sure that at every stage of construction, the professional is coming, making sure that all quality is met there in terms of materials, in terms of process of constructing. So without that, just alone, Mongolia cannot do it. In Mongolia, there is no law on construction, building safety. There is only a law called building law, in which inside they're not particularly talking about the safety for the people. So we need to change that law, I think, and the insurance must be there, a part of it. The other thing is also the quality, of course. What happened in Turkey shows that what kind of results you will have if you have this kind, like in Turkey, they made a lot forgiveness. They call it this amnesty. Turkey, after 1999 major earthquake, made a special law to register all buildings. Then they announced a so-called amnesty, allowing builders to ignore safety codes. But it was said that 145,000 family people, housing problems are solved. But many of them are died after 20 years, just this year in the major earthquake in Turkey, where 50,000 people were killed, and 45 of them were Turkish, the 5 was in Syria. So it's too much cost to pay for not meeting safety codes in a country. So they are now, what Turkey has made, it's a subject we need to study properly so that we don't make the same mistake. Because as earlier I said that there are many buildings just made by people themselves without any proper investigation and monitoring. In Turkey, those buildings many buildings also made without any permission. And later what they made was that amnesty means that they have registered those unpermitted buildings with certain fee, 3.5% for residence buildings and 5% for production facilities. And the billions of dollars were collected for the election. That's really the case which possibly can be repeated in Mongolia unless we address this issue properly. So hopefully I gave you some picture of the building safety in this country and what the government is going to do and what they are ignoring insurance. So I appeal them to use insurance mechanism for that. All right, our second topic is about inflation. Government had announced that the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Economic Development, Hurulbatar said, Hurulbatar announced certain measures about inflation, and he had given certain inflation information. It turned out now by the end of February this year, the inflation is 12.2% year-on-year basis, which is a way lower than 16%, which was at the end of last year. So inflation went down, but however, it is twice higher than what the central bank is aiming for. Its inflation target 6%, but still now it's 12%. What was the reason behind decreasing that inflation? According to the government, first is the foreign currency reserve is increased, now $3 billion USD. Second, now the exchange rate market is relatively stabilized. The third, the prices for goods and services abroad have a bit decreased. So as of now, because there's 3 factors, inflation in Mongolia decreased. However, it's again twice more than the target. And why twice more than target? They also explained first, there is this coal briquette price have increased twice compared year on year. And also diesel have increased 28%, though stabilized for a few months, but compared a year before, it is 28% increase. Flour and certain products, food products, also have got increased the price. For flour material, flour food is 50%, dairy 30%, and some vegetables 30%. So these made inflation twice more than expected. Mongol Bank had increased policy rate 5 times last year alone, and total by 7%, and which made by now, recently also they have approved at the same level. Now it's 13% policy rate. So policy rate is 13%, inflation is 12.2%. It's a relatively better situation compared with our history, because it was usually the vice versa. So what the government is saying that they will take action in order to decrease inflation furthermore. It says that we should not have anything that hindering the market competition. Indeed. But unfortunately, at the same time, they keep increasing state-owned enterprises' amount, their power, and the state-owned enterprise in Mongolia, under our current system structure, usually it's almost not state-owned enterprise, political party-owned enterprises, where people come not based on the merit, people come based on how close they are to their political party and their leadership. So that's why, of course, it's not surprising to expect bad performance from them, and nobody is taking responsibility for that usually. And then when the power is changed, they leave, and the state-owned enterprise, so-called, staying in, usually in a loss. So you cannot compete with the state-owned enterprises. And the other thing is also what stops free market competition in Mongolia is state is controlling too much prices, in particular for those goods. The wheat completely controlled through giving discounted loan in spring, and later on they, after harvest, they're supposed to pay back. Usually this kind of loan is received by people who is close to decision makers in Ulaanbaatar city. So this is 2 things at least we need to correct. The other thing is in the conditions where many millions of US dollars going out of the country, it's very hard to maintain this level of, say, exchange rate, for example. The clear-cut example is the Development Bank of Mongolia is to pay $500 million US dollar euro bond at the end of this year. They have purchased back a few months ago some 51 million US dollar bond. They have purchased back when the price was for them is easier. It was a $100 bond was purchased at the level of 86 US dollar. So they have made some economy on that. Still, they need to pay 450 million US dollar at the end of this year, which is a quite test because it has a big non-performing loan. It will be not that easy for them to raise a bond on the international market. Plus, now on the international market, bonds not that easy to raise, and it is probably again require government guarantee, which the government can do or not. It's also still questioned. And they have also another foreign debt, which is samurai bond. It's around 100 US dollar equivalent yen bond. And according to the CEO of the Development Bank of Mongolia, they have bought yen enough to pay this bond, and which is good news. Hopefully, they will pay that on time. So in general, until Mongolia produces substantial, we we dig out copper, coal, other the raw materials and sell it. But other than these raw materials, or with these materials, Mongolia needs to produce more value-added products. So that's the situation with the inflation. Many things depend on us. So we will see what's going to happen. So our third topic is about teachers' deficit in Mongolia. On March 14, there was an order of the Minister for Education and Science about the entrance, higher education entrance exam score or threshold. And it's like a ACT test in the US, but it's entrance general test, EEH, that's how Mongolian they call it, used to call it. So it was a 440 to 480 minimum score. But now they have decreased it to 410, for example, for particular classes. Mostly, for example, primary school teachers, technology teachers, sport teachers, trainers. All they have now 440. It was 480 before. What does that mean? The score is good for people who is just covering almost 10-20% of they supposed to cover. Those who, for example, got 650 score at this exam, they got 70% of scholarship. Those who got 750 and more, they will get 100% state scholarship. So this is how the entrance exam and scholarship works. And now this caused a lot of debate in society, because they say now you demand for teachers a very lower score, which will bring more weaker students to these teacher schools, which will produce in their own term weaker students. And we don't want to have this kind of compromise on the education issue, which is the most important issue for the country. Interesting thing, 40% of all entrance students select banking, financial institutions, customs, and economists. So these four professions, 40% of those who entered into higher education institutions select. Yet this country needs now engineers and technology workers, 40,000. That's our demand. Now, people don't want to go, not by big size, want to go there. There is a teachers' trade union in the country where they demand now the main reason of the teachers' deficit in the country is salary. Indeed, a teacher of primary school gets around 1 million MNT, which is around now with the current course of US dollar around, it should be just over $300 US, which is not enough for their living, for even covering cost. That's why many teachers go to Korea to do the labor work. And they used to go there during their holidays, summer or winter, before. But now they are even going during the sessions, school academic year, and saying that they need, they mention many reasons. They go and they work, and many of them are not coming back. We have in Korea some total 60 over 1,000 Mongolians. Many of them are teachers or nurses that we so much need in the country. So it's really a teacher's salary issue. But however, this one is not addressed. The assistant judge in Mongolia receives 2.7 million MNT per month, which is 2.7 times higher than teacher. And teachers trade union brings a particular statistics that then our teacher salary is to be 3 million initial salary per month. Well, that time the rate was different, around $1,000. That's what they find now to be now 3 times almost increase of salary that what they need. So in that case, we will not have this teacher's deficit. For example, we have now around 3,000 teachers need Mongolian schools. The general schools require this amount of teachers. So only solution is salary, but that means since it is not planned in budget, either the government had to cut the other part of the cost of the budget and pay that to the teachers. Whether it is possible or not, we don't know yet. But however, that's the demand of the teachers in the country. You know, in Finland, teachers are so prestigious work, and they compete for that positions. Some 10 person for one job, and each teacher there has master degree, and it's very prestigious, very well respected job in Finland, and that's why Finland has always number 1 or 2 place in education quality by many tests. Mongolians keep going there many times to learn about their system, but in practice very little are taken here. But hopefully the situation will be changed, and let's see what happens. So these are 3 topics we wanted to share with you this week. And hopefully some problems are very close to some of you, because many non-Mongolian speaking foreigners live in Ulaanbaatar city, and they probably do share the concerns I have raised just now. So these are 3 topics, which is first about building safety, second about inflation situation, the third about the teachers' deficit happening in Mongolia now. Thank you very much for staying with us. You can rewatch also this program on jargaldefacto.com from Monday. Otherwise, it's on Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on Tingir TV. Thank you very much.